This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Several years ago on my old radio show, I had the chance to talk to former mobster Louis Ferrante, who wrote the book Unlocked: The Life and Crimes of a Mafia Insider. Well, now Louis has a new book. This one is called Mob Rules: What the Mafia Can Teach the Legitimate Businessman. It's a pleasure to talk to him again. Hi, Louis.
Hi, how are you, Pete? Good to be on your show again.
Thanks for being on. Now, it's an interesting title because you're alluding to the fact that some of the rules that apply in the world of mafia can be applied to the world of business. So let me ask this question. Do you think if most mafia leaders went legit, they could be successful businessmen?
Quite a few. Quite a few. A lot of the guys that I met who were successful in that life, in that world, could easily have applied their street-savvy business smarts to legitimate enterprise and made millions doing so. I mean, they just basically would have had to decriminalize their minds to start with. And a lot of guys did do that. There were legitimate mob guys who rather mob guys who I know who went legit and made a fortune with companies removed from organized crime. And some of them made enough money where they were smart enough to say, hey, I'm done with the streets. I'm making a ton of money here. And the reason for their success was all the street smarts that they brought to the real business world. I mean, they were running circles around, guys that graduated from Ivy League schools but didn't have that experience that they had. So yeah, absolutely. Everything could be applied just as well in the straight world. And a lot of people in the straight world do business like mobsters. So it kind of goes both ways.
Well, I was about to ask, is it a chicken or an egg situation? Which comes first, being a good business person or being a good mobster?
Yeah, exactly. So, if you read the newspapers nowadays with somebody else, in the financial industry getting picked up on new charges every day, you wonder who's worse. But I guess just basically, if you do apply the street smarts you got, you could take it anywhere. And a lot of guys have done so. I did it. I'm a perfect example. I left prison after 8.5 years and decided to go straight. And fortunately, I've been quite successful, in what I chose to do, which is writing and promoting myself as an author, as a speaker. So I basically just used everything that I knew, everything that I had learned, and banged down doors, found an agent, found a publisher, using that aggressive spirit that mobsters have. They go out there every day. Obviously, I had to strip away the predatory instincts. I wasn't going to prey on people anymore, victimize people. But short of that, you still have to be aggressive. And I used that street-savvy aggressiveness to get places every day.
Well, we watch a lot of movies and television, and we see the whole cops and robbers things. And if you talk to most police officers, they tell you the same thing. Every week in a television show, some police officer draws their gun. In real life, a lot of police officers go through their entire career never drawing their gun except on the shooting range. So let me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Peter.
Let me apply that to the mob side of things. We see the criminal element being played out in movies and books and television as to what the mob does. But if you take out a lot of the violence in the real world of the mob, is it just a lot of business without a lot of violence? The only difference is the business is illegal?
It is, and you're 1,000% right, Pete. What goes on every day? I mean, when there's a murder, obviously, and the mob does kill people, but when there's a murder, it makes headlines. You see some guy chomping on a soggy cigar with blood all over him. He's dead, and you think the mob does that every day. But I wasn't a killer, and most of my friends weren't killers. Of course, yeah, I did know a few killers. I was in that life, so they were around. But not everybody is a killer. A lot of guys are just big earners, and they go about their business every day, and they earn big money. And most of the time, on a daily basis, the mob goes to great lengths to avoid violence because violence isn't good for business. It draws the law, it draws investigations, it corrupts people who are part of the organization get turned into informants and take down major money-making schemes or what have you. So the mob tries to avoid violence every day. Most people are just businessmen. I was known as a big earner. So when somebody had to disappear, They didn't come to me and say, we need you to take care of this guy, because they have other guys for that. There are people who are known to do that, probably with a catalog of psychopathies that they have, going on in their minds. They're nutty people to start with, obviously, if they're killers, but they turn to those killers when they need to get rid of somebody, the bosses. But most guys in the mob are just earners, and they avoid violence every day. We have what we used to call a sit-down, where if we have a dispute with each other, we have to go to a table and resolve the difference before it gets out of hand. So within an hour, no lawyers, no mediators, no president or CEO or anyone else involved. You sit down at the table, you shake, you talk out your differences, you shake hands, and you go your own way, and it's done. And in the rare event where two mobsters can't come to a resolution, then at that time they go to a guy higher, like a captain or a capo, we'd say, and that's sort of like middle management of a company. And he steps in, he presides over the dispute, he makes a ruling, and that ruling sticks. And believe it or not, there's no politics involved either, Pete. Whatever, usually right is right and wrong is wrong. That's it. If you have a reasonable argument and it makes sense, you express yourself well, you're going to win. If there's two rights, each guy has a little right on each side, then they'll come to some type of agreement. And they'll say, listen, both of you guys are right, but you're going to have to agree upon something. And they'll make you shake, and that's it. And that's etched in stone. No contracts, no nothing, no attorneys. Once you shake your hand, that's a done deal. I mean, that's period. And your verbal resume is all you got in the mob on the streets. So who you are, if you don't live up to it, you're done. You might not get killed, but nobody's going to deal with you. So you're going to have to live up to that agreement.
The title of the book, Mob Rules, What the Mafia Can Teach the Legitimate Businessman, sounds like a great idea for a course, but we also live in a politically correct world. There was a time, if you go back to the 90s, with a movie like Wall Street and the saying, greed is good. No one wants to go back and talk about that anymore. So is it somewhat politically incorrect to say, mob rules, what the mafia can teach the legitimate businessman? Are you getting any pushback on that?
No, it's been received well. The reviews have been amazing, which is great. And they took it seriously. I was afraid they were going to take it as a little tongue-in-cheeky and think that, I was stepping out of bounds. Why do we got to listen to the mob? But I think people are so aware today. They're so well aware that the big financial tycoons that are running Wall Street and behind the financials of the government and stuff are such crooks nowadays. I mean, you got CEOs that destroy companies and then walk away with like a $70-80 million umbrella package. After they wreck the whole company behind them, they leave with a personal fortune. I mean, this is worse than the mob would ever allow. Let's be real. People are aware of this. If a Don destroyed a mafia family, he's not allowed to walk away with all the money. They're going to kill him. I mean, there's retribution. There's pay. There's consequences. People today in the legitimate world have no consequences. They just operate completely out of hand. But if they're beyond the law, because they're so rich and they're so embedded, in the financial institutions or what have you, they're done. They just walk away with their money and go live in their mansion and sail their yachts. I mean, so I think people are so well aware now that goes on that they do take this seriously, which is great. You can learn. And interestingly enough, my book tells you to be honorable to your word, to do the right thing, because that's how the mob does operate on a street level, aside from the violence. You got to be an honorable guy. You got to be good to your word. I never gave my word to somebody and didn't keep it. You have to respect people's houses, and you don't go looking for somebody after hours at his house because he has time with his family. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go near somebody's wife. In the workplace, everybody's hitting on everybody's wife, girlfriend. We couldn't do that in the mob. You're not allowed to look at another man's wife. The penalty is death. If you try to pick up somebody's wife. So in a strange sense, the mob's twisted code of ethics, and it is twisted. And within that code, there were a lot of things that weren't so twisted. They were a lot better than businesses operate today.
One last quick question, and that is, I know that being in prison, one of the things you're told when you get out is you can't associate with the folks you used to associate with before. But you've written 2 books now. Have you heard from anybody in your past who has a thing or two to say about what you've written, especially this new book, Mob Rules?
I bump into guys now and then. I never ratted on anybody, never squealed. So I did my time. I faced a long time in prison. I faced life, actually, and I refused to cooperate. I did get 13 years, then studied law and reversed one of my cases from prison, so I got out in 8.5 years. But I still left the mob with an honorable reputation. The fact that I write books about the mob, they're not happy about that. But I don't go looking for these guys. I really have nothing in common with them anymore. We're light years apart. So, if I do bump into somebody, I say hello and goodbye. I keep it moving. I'm not going to go into a social club, sit down and play cards with them and think they're my best friends because who knows? They probably, would resent the fact that you're writing books about what they believe is a secret life, although there's no secret to it anymore.
The book is called Mob Rules, What the Mafia Can Teach the Legitimate Businessman. It's written by Louis Ferrante. And Louis, I thank you very much for being on the program with us.
Pete, as always, it's a pleasure, and I had fun with you last time and fun with you again. Thank you so much.
Louis Ferrante, author of Mob Rules, What the Mafia Can Teach the Legitimate Business Person. You can go to my website at thestufffile.com, go to the What's On page for this show, which is show number 0094, and you'll find links to Louis's website, plus links to Amazon.com, where you can order his book directly for the Kindle.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuph is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.